that you knew that there was no other way out?
I had nothing to lose and everything to gain out of that situation.
Who came here at the age of 19 with nothing, owns an empire now.
Because a lot of people see me now and they think that I had a big golden
Silver
egg,
spoon or
a big golden egg that was given to me. That's why I'm working what I'm working on now. But it was never the case.
Hi, and welcome to the ST Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Sim Gakhar, a wealth management expert dedicated to helping successful business owners and professionals like you secure your lifestyle and legacy. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to share a conversation with someone truly special to me, Adil Virani, a client, somebody I know for many, many years like a son. I still remember the spark in Adil's eyes when he first shared his dream of breaking into the real estate and watching his journey from a talented actuary to one of the GTA's most inspiring real estate developers. It has been nothing short of incredible. He's a GTA-based real estate developer and actuary. He's the founder of iGap Construction and CEO of Dream World Residency Inc., where he focuses on repurposing and renovating properties to address Ontario's housing needs. With his background in actuarial science and insurance, Adil brings a unique blend of risk management and long-term planning to his real estate ventures. Let's dive into his story. Welcome, Adil.
Thanks, Sim, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Adil, I know you for very long.
Oh, yes, you do.
You know, I know you from the time when you first came to Canada.
Agreed.
I know you from the time when you were working with Sun Life, you were working as an actuary.
Yeah.
I know you from the time when you became an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I'm so excited having you here as my client, somebody I'm so close to, and sharing all your experiences. So this is something going to be amazing.
Definitely. Happy to be here. And I know we have kind of known each other for about 15 years since I've been here in Canada. So definitely an amazing journey worth sharing for sure.
Perfect. So, Adil, you know what? When you first came here, I remember meeting you somewhere at one of your aunt's place. She was one of my clients. I went there and I spoke to her, and you were there with your girlfriend or something like that. I remember at that time. And I just talked to you. So maybe I think it's a great idea if viewers get to know a little bit more about your story, how you started in Canada, how you came to Canada, and what was the turning point and where you are today. So let's hear a little bit more from you, because I know that knowing your story, Adil, I think it's very inspirational. It's very, very inspirational for many people. You know, Canada is a land of immigrants. A lot of people come from all over the world here. And when they come here, they think they're going to break something big. Not everyone gets to go there because not everyone gets those opportunities. People get scared about a lot of things. People don't get the right guidance. But you did it. And I saw you doing that step by step. So let's start from the time when you first came, and let me hear from you and let the viewers hear from you. What was it like?
No, definitely. I'll start and we'll take a pause and let me know if I'm going slow or fast. But essentially, I came to Canada in 2010, as you know, Sim. I was a 19-year-old back then. So you have known me for the same amount of years as I was old back then. So 15 years now. I came as an international student from Pakistan, actually. And actually at that point, I had a couple of choices. So I could have been in Pakistan, where my dad said that he will have enough money for me to go to any university in Pakistan, which will cover all my costs there. Or I could come to Canada, and the same amount of money would only last me one term here, or one semester, or one 4-month term that they have here. So, and I made my choice that I'll go there. And my dad made it very clear that he's not in a state that he can pay international tuition for full 4 years. So when I came here, I think that's where my story starts, is because it's all about resilience, right? When I came here with only one term of fee, which was at that point about $12,000, and I think right now it's even more. But at that point in time, $12,000 was a lot of money, and it still is for a lot of people. So at that point, when I started university, I had to make things work. So I had to, whether it meant working 4 jobs at a time, or whether it meant doing multiple things, which sometimes people don't like doing. Whether it means shoveling the snow for different people, working at Tim Hortons, working at McDonald's.
We've all done that. We've all done that.
Exactly. So that's what the struggle was, where a lot of people, I think, sometimes give up, right? That it's not for them, or and then they quit. But at that point, I think that was, and the reason I'm sharing this story and going back to that level is that was the cornerstone of what taught me what resilience meant. And if I could show myself that I could do it once, then whenever the problems happen, which will happen, inevitable in every journey, the problems will come. But then you know, and you have a confidence to rely on from the past experiences that you have done that once, not once, sometimes twice. So why is this time any different? But that was the cornerstone of my journey, which allowed me to propel even further in my career as different problems arose in actuarial field, let it be in my real estate career, or while I was working for a job and started anything entrepreneurial on that front.
We'll go to your next journey later on, but I'm going to go back to the 19-year-old boy.
Please, happy to.
19-year-old boy, snow shoveling, working at Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Coming back from our roots back home are somewhere where moms cook. They serve you. You don't have to worry about laundry. Somebody comes and does that. Yes. You didn't grow up like that, like you were doing all that. But now not only doing your laundry, cooking for you, and then making your ends meet because you don't want to go back to your parents to ask for money, as he had made it very clear to you. So did you think there was something that shaped your mind, or it was just the circumstantial that you knew that there was no other way out?
That's a very good question, and I asked that myself quite a few times when I reflect on my past. And I think I would say it's a combination of both. Even back home in Pakistan, I was always a go-getter. Like I still remember my dad when I was 16 years old and as a legal age to drive a car actually. And at that point, I would tell my dad, "Hey, I need a car," and my dad, just because as a teenager, he didn't want to give me a car because you're erratic and all that stuff. And fairly so. I understand him now, but didn't understand him back then. And I was like, okay, I'll just go ahead and earn my own money and buy the car, right?
Did you?
I did end up having enough money to buy the car, but at that point I was ready to come to Canada. So I didn't end up buying it. But going back to that story is just telling you that I was always like, okay, there's never a no. Like it's always like how, right? So that was always something in me. Like even growing up, I would see some really good cars. I was always into cars, and I would tell my mom that hey, this car is so amazing, and my mom would always say, well, we can't afford it, and these are for different class of people. And I know.
But you own a beautiful car now. I know that. I sat in your car.
Exactly. So that was more of, rather than a car, it was more of a statement to be just for myself. Not to anybody else, that nothing is impossible. It might be long, but nothing is impossible. So going back to your question, Sim, as you asked, what was it that made me kind of go on? I think it was a little bit of both. Something like when you have nothing to lose, and everything to gain. You go all out. Exactly. And at that point, when I was here, I had nothing to lose and everything to gain out of that situation. I could go back. Like the worst case would have happened, I would have gone back to Pakistan, where I would not have made things work here. But there was never an option in my mind, because it was like, if I work hard enough, and that was I had done in the past as well, then the success is going to come. And that's what I said.
But you know what, Adil, I know you for that long now. I know you for over 15 years now. And I know you were the person who was always, you wanted to learn more. You wanted to do more. You had your goals and you were going towards them. You were a very planned person. I never saw you that you were just doing, okay, I'll do this also, I'll do this also. You were very planned always. So maybe that is something which really helped you get that you were confident enough that if you put your thoughts towards something, you'll get it.
Agreed.
So you came as an international student. You did your education, and after that, you chose a career to be an actuary.
Correct.
Not an easy career, not an easy course to study, and this is something very challenging, and you really need good brains for that. So let's get to that level, that what kind of satisfaction and everything happened. And I know on the back end, I remember there was a time you used to take tuitions. You used to teach students too. To make your money. So you were always with good brain, and this was being used everywhere. So let's know a little bit about that, so that we can relate that how a successful Adil Virani in front of us today, who came here at the age of 19 with nothing, owns an empire now. So let's start from that.
Thanks, Sim. I would say yes. So I came to Canada for undergraduate in actuarial science at U Waterloo. And tuition and connecting that part, teaching other students was a big part of my money earning mechanism, and that paid quite a bit, I would say. And I kind of still sometimes look back at it, and that was like kind of my aha moments when I figured out the tuition part, of course.
I remember that.
Yes, definitely that helped me quite a bit. However, my actuarial journey definitely started in Waterloo, but it went ahead even further than that because, as Sim, you mentioned, it's a challenging field, which where is not only the university that you have to go through, but there's another set of exams that you have to take other than the university 4 or 5 years you're doing. And that's the most challenging part because each exam comes with about 500 study hours, which again, when you say it out, it's like 500 hours. That's not bad. But if you calculate it, it's about, if you study for 6 months straight, it's 4 hours a day while you're working.
While you're working,
and these exams only take place once a year. So if you don't pass,
then you got another year.
Gone, right? And there are 10 exams like that, right? So some years taking 2 exams, so that means studying 1,000 hours that year, study hours, was a big commitment, not only from myself, but also from my family. At that point, now my wife, but now my girlfriend, it was a commitment from both of us, right? That's something I had to do. So after graduating in 2015, I had already started writing exams back in university, which was something nobody had heard about back then. But I started off, so I had already had a few exams when I graduated, and then I went on and take my other exams, which got me to 2 different levels. Where first is the associate, where you clear some exams, and then after that, there's 3 to 4 other exams that gets you to the fellow, which is the last stage of getting fully qualified. And I got my fellowship in 2020, which was 2019 actually, 2019. And that's where it kind of all was like, okay, I've arrived.
I've arrived where I wanted to be. And then something else happens.
Exactly.
Entrepreneur inside Adil wakes up.
Exactly, Sam.
That entrepreneur inside you wakes up.
Yes.
And that's where I want to go, Adil, because I want a lot of people to look at you and see their dreams live through you, that how you had achieved that education. You had reached that goal. You were in a career which was so rewarding financially, professionally, everything. You were working for Sun Life as an actuary, making very good money. But what happened? What was the reason for the change? What happened?
Yeah, I know. And that's the question. Like looking back at it, everything makes sense. But as it was happening, everything was a chaos. So like when 2019, I cleared my exams. I had my fellowship in Honolulu, Hawaii, actually, which was beautiful. And I was like, okay, I've arrived here, and shouldn't I be happy and shouldn't I be satisfied because I worked 10 years to achieve where I want to be? Of course, my parents were happy. I was happy, but there's something inside of me that wanted a little more. And I didn't know at that point what it was. I didn't know that. And at that point, I started asking a lot of self-reflection questions to myself. What is what I wanted? And just to give you a little bit of and viewers also a little bit of a background of that conversation actually started within myself even a couple of years prior to that because I remember I graduated 2015. Now we're talking 2019, 2020. So I've been working for 5 years now, right? In that 5 years, I've changed 3 companies and always been thinking something is wrong with the company, where anything that was wrong was with myself. That nothing was wrong.
I remember that time. I remember talking to you all the time.
I do remember, speaking to you. And I was changing companies, always thinking that it was something wrong with the company. But looking back at it, I think everything was fine. It was something wrong with me. And at that point, I didn't know. But looking back at it, it seems like that was a point when I got my fellowship designation that was like, okay, what do I do now? Because remember that I had 1,000 hours of study hours every year that I was spending for the last 5 years studying.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, I don't have that thing to fill my 1,000 hours. Not saying that there are not enough things, but there are enough things. But now you're like, wow, my life is now empty. Like, what do I do now? Of course, my wife liked it that way, but nonetheless, you have that void that you're trying to...
She's an accountant. She was studying too. I remember that.
Yes, exactly. So at that point, that's where the idea is starting to come. And that's when exactly where the COVID hit as well, and start of early 2020, where you had a lot of deep time to reflect. Everybody had deep time to reflect, have those uncomfortable conversations with yourself. And I think that's where I took a little bit of a liberty to start having this conversation of what I wanted in life. And I think I really want to mention, I think I was so, I think at some point in March of when the COVID hit in 2020, I was in a position where I started, where I took a little bit of a break actually from working. 3 months I went to a sabbatical. I don't know if a lot of people know about it, but the 3 months I took off completely from working, and I just wanted to figure out what I wanted. And I came back working as well again, which we can talk about. But that 3 months, which I was away in summer of 2020, is when I kind of started discovering what I really wanted, and that's where the real estate side and the life insurance policies and how you can leverage them for your benefit in real estate came into play.
That's so rightly said by you. I remember that time when you went on that break as well. But, I want to talk to you a little bit. I want you to talk a little bit more about the challenges, a very rewarding job, leaving it as is, the regular money. Now that you're married, you've got family running, you've got expenses running, you've got education. You don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know that there's something else which Adil wants. Adil is an entrepreneur. And then you gave up your job.
Yes.
How did it feel inside? What were the challenges?
Yeah, I think as much as there were external challenges in terms of the things that you have from your parents, that wow, like this, like he studied 10 years and now he wants to give it all up. Right?
I would do the same for my son. If he says that he studied this and now he wants a different career, I would go mad.
Exactly, yeah.
But
yeah.
Your parents are so proud today.
Exactly.
So proud today where you are, right?
They are, definitely. And they were always supportive, I must say. But there's a lot of debate internally. And I would always say, as a takeaway on a separate note, as you're talking about this, is the much bigger conflict you have is always inside rather than outside.
Yeah.
Like always. Whatever you choose, any step you're taking, you just have to convince yourself the externalities are just a noise, I would say, in my opinion. But nonetheless, at that point, the challenges, as I said, are more internal. So at that point, it was like, I spent 10 years doing something, and out of a sudden, should I give it up? And just to remind you, like I still went back to the jobs, but as you know, it was not until just early last year that I actually
fully quit. Yeah.
But at that point was a turning point because I started something on the side while I was working, which we can talk about in a bit. But going back to your question, what challenges I had was more like, is that 10-year a waste? What I spent 10 years, is that...
So was it?
It was never. No, never. Anything is a waste. Never any... I would say this
Education is
again.
never a waste.
Education is never a waste. And experience is never a waste. And when I say experience, I mean true life experience, right?
It's never a waste.
And that's why I think when you started the story, Sim, about my coming here as a kid, and that was really important to this, because that was in that 10 years that you're talking about.
Right.
And that's really important to say again, is because that resilience, that persistence, those attributes I got are not because of anything else but the time that I had back in university. So going back again, it was a time of deep struggle, but would I take it back? Maybe not, because if I did not have that struggle, how would I develop the resilience to go through it? So I think I would say nothing is a waste. Even sometimes going in the moment, you are in the deepest, darkest places of your life, but never nothing is a waste. I will say it because it's just a place for you to find yourself and learn the character building qualities that will help you later in life. So that's what I would say.
Really. And but one thing, Adil, that really comes to my mind, when you're working for somebody else, you're an employee rather than a self-employed person as an entrepreneur, you have fixed money coming to the house, you have the benefits from the work, you know that something happens, will be taken care of, you've got everything. But when you're self-employed, you're taking care of everything, right?
Correct.
So you had to look at everything, that you are giving up the whole package, getting into a new thing.
Correct.
Number one. Number two, I want you to answer that also, that being a South Asian, what challenges did you face and why real estate?
Yeah.
So these three questions are interconnected, but I want you to tell me and tell the viewers how Adil, coming as an international student, studying for 10 years, have a very rewarding career, well-paid job, leaving that and getting into self-employment, and then after that, real estate empire. And the challenges. And what gave you the peace of mind actually that, okay, you know what? I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
That is something which everybody's looking for.
Of course.
Everybody wants a change, but people are scared to take that step, which Adil has taken. So that's where, what do you think?
No, definitely. Going back and answering that question in different steps. And first of all, leaving a well-paid job. And again, remember that I started being an actuary because it was always like, okay, it's a really well-paying job. It's with numbers, which I love. And leaving that high-paying job when you've already been a qualified actuary now, where you're making really good income, which is a stable income, where a lot of people would die for being in that situation, and that was always the thinking that I was going through in my mind. It was not easy, right? And I think, Sim, you and I had a very different conversation at different points in time about that stability or leaving that stability behind. And I know you were always motivating me to be who I wanted to be from the start.
Thank you.
Whatever that involved. But so I really appreciate you for that. But it only makes sense right now what you meant at that point in time, right? Like, but you wanted me to just explore what I wanted to explore. So giving up, again, going back, giving stability was definitely very hard. Like, if I say anything right now that it was easy, I would just be lying. So I think I should say that it was really tough. What made me a little safer was a couple of factors. First of all, a lot of support from my wife, for sure, because she's an accountant. She still works. She likes working. She works at BMO. And that was a lot of push from her that, hey, we have our stable income coming in. We were always frugal with money, kind of back in university after that and stuff. So she was like, one person is still employed. Even if you screw up,
That's
hopefully
okay.
you will not, but if you do, you still have a career to return to. So why not give it a shot? Because on the deathbed, we only have regrets. For the things that we have not done. There's never a regret for something that we have done. Right? So that was actually part of it. And third of all, it was always a fear of, if I go into a certain field, what is going to happen if something happens to me, like the key person risk, as we say it. So for that reason, I think at that point, I was in no way close to imagining what is the stuff that I have right now in terms of real estate. But even when you start something new, you just want to make sure your loved ones are protected. God forbid something happens to you. And at that point, I think it was about the same time when we started working on the cash value life insurance policies.
I remember
it kind
that.
of gave me a little bit of a peace of mind that, God forbid, if something was to happen, my income is not there. So my wife has something to rely on if something was to happen. So another part of your question was with regards to South Asian folks.
Yes.
Can you repeat that? What exactly were you?
I just wanted to know that getting into, coming it as an international student and doing so much, and then getting into this kind of a portfolio where you don't see very many South Asians doing that well.
Yes.
So did you face any challenges in particular being what you were, what your backgrounds were? You did not grow up here.
No,
you did not know the systems here that well. You learned everything.
Yes.
And coming from that background, was there anything extra that you had to take care of? Or was there any advantage of this? Or was there any disadvantage of it? Or do you think that, a lot of South Asians are looking up to you? So I want them to know it from you that if Adil could do it, you could do it.
100%. I think I say that to everyone, Sim, that, and I get a lot of South Asian folks because as you said, there are not a lot of South Asian folks in that space. So whenever I meet people, they ask me, hey Adil, what is your secret, right? And how do I make it happen? How do I
Maybe just tell them a little bit what you do right now. Let's hear it in quick 2-3 minutes. What exactly do you do so that they know what does Adil has? Why is Adil here today as an entrepreneur? And why do I say that? Because I know Adil from the first time ever I met Adil was the time when he was an international student and I was giving him the insurance for the, as a student. And then we met and we talked, and then there was a time I was mentoring you.
Correct.
And there was a time that you were getting into different stage of your life. Even I met your girlfriend when you were getting married. So we talked. But now it's a different Adil in front of me. So maybe I think viewers would love to know a little bit more what you do exactly, what your portfolio is, so that they can relate to it. And you're so young right now, Adil. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks to Sim for her amazing guidance and mentorship. That was definitely part of it. I always looked up to you, even when I was in university, and I always wanted to, even back then, you were kind of in circles that I wanted to be part of, because it's always, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
And I always teach that to everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wanted just by that principle, I wanted to be in that circle so that my average was much better than what it was before. So going back, a little bit about myself, Sim. For the last 3 years or so, 1 year full time and 2 years before that, with my actuarial job, I was doing it on the side. I've started to slowly build a real estate portfolio with a little bit of a different strategy. I said I'll just take a few seconds to explain that a little bit. But essentially, the biggest challenge you have in the real estate space is the money, is
Yeah.
the finances, right?
Yeah.
And everybody thinks.
And South Asians love real estate.
They do.
We grew up with real estate. Like for
Exactly.
us, anything which is tangible,
Agreed.
which we can see, is something gives us a peace of mind. Yeah.
Agree, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was exactly my motivation, which
Yeah.
I think you asked before what my why was real estate.
Yeah.
I always loved tangibility.
Tangibility,
and,
yeah.
and that's what I think a lot of people within the South Asian community
Absolutely.
like, tangibility. But the problem was, as you said, Sim, earlier, I don't come from a lot of money. And that's why that background was important, which we talked about, because a lot of people see me now and they think that I had a big golden
Silver
egg,
spoon or
a big golden egg that was given to me. That's why I'm working what I'm working on now. But it was never the case, and that's why I don't want it to be that case, because that's why it's an inspiration rather than someone that is a handout, right? So going back to what I do is. Because the capital is something that was always a challenging part, and it always is, even as much as you go for a higher level developers who are doing bigger stuff, capital is always the scarce part. And I kind of, again, curiosity is something that if I would probably define myself with, there's two words, resilience and curiosity. I was always curious about how others are doing it, right? And due to that curiosity, due to that search, I found a different model where not a lot of folks from the South Asian community were doing it, but a lot of other folks who are native to Canada, a lot of people in different areas of Canada were applying the strategy where you could recycle your capital. And what I meant by that is essentially you have a limited amount of capital which you put in a project, and a lot of people are, when you say you're investing in real estate, they think you just buy an asset, you rent it out, which is fine.
Yeah.
But what space I was involved in was essentially not doing that too, but there are a few things that happened before that. You buy an asset that is vacant, that nobody wants to step in. It's something that you completely bring it down to studs, and then you redo the whole thing, make it really nice. You refinance it from the bank at a much higher value, and you get all your capital out without going into too much details. You get all your capital out, and now you have this asset that you still own. You've not sold it. You still own it, cash flows, and you move on to the next project. And that's the beauty of the process, is that you don't need much capital because you have a small pool of capital that keeps on growing, because the refinance you get is much higher than the capital you put in, which means your pool gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And not only that, but your cash flow is also coming in every month from the places that you have rented. For this process to work, Sim, is a few things had to happen, and that's why I chose the market up north in Timmins. And that's where my portfolio is. First of all, the market had to be good enough to forgive me for my mistakes. That was first off, because I don't come from a renovation background.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm a very numbers guy, which helps me a lot today in my real estate journey for risk management. But I don't come from a renovation background. So it was a lot of learning on that space. And that learning comes at a cost. Either you pay with time or you pay with money.
Yeah.
It's always the case in life.
Yeah.
I was okay to pay with money. I'm not okay to wait another 10 years to learn.
Yeah.
So I'm okay paying with money, which means making mistakes, making monetary mistakes. I don't want to make a mistake in a GTA area where a mistake costs you $1 million.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I would probably have been wiped out. So I wanted to go in a market where I could test my skills in terms of knowledge of the renovation, not doing it myself, but kind of managing trades that do it. And that's where Timmins was one of the strong markets up north, which is 8 hours drive from here. And that's where I made a ton of mistakes at the start. Don't get me wrong. Like, I made a ton of mistakes, but the mistakes were a few $1,000s, maybe 10.
And they taught you enough
They taught me enough.
Yeah.
It was better than any mentorship course I could have taken at that point in time in real estate, which, will teach me only the theory part of it and not the application. So I think that's why I chose that market. And that's how the model, as I just explained, helped me start from a single family home. Then we did the same concept on a duplex, then a triplex. I think at some point.
And what do you have now?
I have about 105 units in Timmins. And we are working on one of the bigger renovation projects in a city called Haileybury, which is really close to North Bay, for reference, right by the Lake Timiskaming. And we are converting a school, a high school, into a 65-unit apartment building dedicated to senior housing. And it's facing the lake,
Wow.
which is beautiful. So that's another kind of project I'm working on right now, and kind of graduated too slowly. But again, I want to, the story helps you see that I did not start there at the 65 unit. I started off at a single family home like anybody else. But that all happened if you're willing to learn, you're willing to be curious, willing to fail, and failing fast and learning and getting back up. There's nothing that can stop you.
And what advice do you have for a 20-year-old who just comes here or who's been here and who really wants to be something like Adil? What advice do you have for him?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things which I live by, that principle when the hard times come. My mantra is always like resilience, and resilience is a word that is thrown around quite a bit, and it means different things for different people. But that's what I want to clarify. Resilience for me is it's never quitting, but not also that. There's a little bit other element to it, is also learning when to quit, like what to do. Like, it's not always like you never quit.
Yeah.
You quit, but knowing the difference between when that thing is not for you. It's a time, right?
It's a time, yeah.
What is not working, which is a concept of failing fast, right? So if you're failing, recognize it and then move on from whatever that, because I always believe in life, you're always going to learn from elimination. You never know exactly what you want to do. You always know what you don't want to do. And that's what I've always lived with.
Wow, where did you learn this from?
Well, from my own experience.
This sentence is your own? You learned from the elimination?
Exactly. Yeah,
I love it.
Because going back, Sim, like I never started directly in real estate. I had so many failed ventures, which again...
At one point of time, you were talking about getting into insurance business as an advisor, and you and me were talking about it.
Yes,
I remember that time when I was doing those policies for you, and you were saying, Sim, this is interesting. I might be an insurance advisor, remember?
Exactly. At some point, I wanted to open my own actuarial consulting firm.
Yeah.
But I tried a bunch of things that, what was ever strong on the market. Like at one point, Amazon FBA business was really on the high. So I'll give that a shot. And I gave a shot. I lost money. I want to do my own custom business for something. And it was a lot of failures, right?
Entrepreneur inside was jumping too high.
Exactly. And it did not know what it wants to accomplish in the end. But that's why that principle I've developed, and I tell everybody, you will never know exactly what you want. You'd really, like if you ask someone what you want as a 20-year-old, as you said, they wouldn't know. They would only find out what they don't want by doing the things. So I did a lot of things. I'm like, this is not for me. This is not for me. This is not for me. Because some people do know what they want, but 90% of the population don't know what they want. It's only by doing, or how I say is taking enough shots that you know which shot is for you.
Trial and error, right? Yeah. So Adil, now that you have got a lot of properties, a lot of doors that you own now, is that a peace of mind?
Actually, far from it. Peace of mind is such a relative word against him, is because the more you do, the more you realize that the more things you have to manage, the more doors you have, it takes away from the peace of mind actually on that front, unless you have a proper plan in place.
Yeah.
And that's where I think everything comes together, Sim, is when the proper planning, as you mentioned at the start. I've always been kind of a planner in that state. And at some point, I think I do recall having a conversation with you about a year or 2 years ago because remember this, as you know, but for your viewers, this all happened in 3 years. So it's not like I've been working on it for 10 years and slowly and gradually. It was a drastic process. So a lot of things had not been planned for. And one of the things that was part of it was all these properties which had loans and mortgages on them, right? So what would happen, as you said, like my wife was not actively as involved. She's starting to get more involved, but at that point she was not actively involved in it. So what would happen, God forbid, if we got hit by a bus or something happened to me tomorrow? And that's when I think when we had that conversation a couple of years ago, where we started off, like, if something happens to me, at least the minimum I could do is whatever my loan positions are, that are paid off right away from the life insurance proceeds, having a life insurance product that caters to that. And not only keeping it stagnant, but consistently on a regular basis, having a conversation with you to upgrade those policies, because my portfolio is not remaining static.
Yeah, it's growing.
Last time a year ago when we spoke, I maybe had 70 units.
Yeah.
Now I have 105. So if the portfolio is not remaining static, that means my coverage is not remaining static. So at any point in time, I want to make sure that when I add more doors, the life insurance policy that is associated with that loans on those houses or those properties are in line with them, are more than enough to cover those loans. And that's where I think that has helped me have a lot of peace of mind, knowing that God forbid something happens, I've told my wife something happens and gives him a call. She's gonna take care of everything.
We're gonna have you many, many years around us.
Yeah.
And I even remember, that reminds me that I remember that you had brought up once that, Sim, what if something happens to me? I mean, I'm still alive, but I'm not able to work.
Yes.
But then the planning that, we put in place for you, for the corporate planning, for the retirement planning, that your policies will have a cash value and you can live on that. So that's a great thing. You're a very good planner. I love the way you do the things. I think it's a great thing, Adil. You are a motivation to a lot of young people. So is Adil happy now?
Yeah. I think
Entrepreneurs are never happy.
No,
They're always wanting something.
No, that's why I did not have a direct answer right there. That's why I took a second to think. I think, and if you ask my wife, she's going to probably say no. I'm not happy because I'm always kind of
looking for the next
opportunity, looking for the next high, for that matter. But I would say it depends on what happiness means to everyone. Like for me, the happiness is curiosity, right?
Yeah.
For me, happiness is kind of knowing that I've given my all.
Yeah.
Even if that means failing, but I've given my all, and there's nothing more that remains to give, right? So for that part, in that front, there's never enough to learn, right? There's always something more. Like when I started into real estate side, there's a whole new game I got to learn, whether it be on the planning side, working with the life insurance stuff, or on the legal side, or on the actual real estate front, on the building side and everything. And there's a big learning curve all the time. So my happiness is always tied to learning and being curious about new stuff. So I think I'm always happy. I think
you'll always be learning as long as I know you.
Exactly.
No, that's very nice. Very nice. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of you, Adil, to have you here and share your journey, how you started. And a lot of South Asians will look up to you. A lot of people would want to be somebody like you. And thank you once again for taking that time all the way driving in this rush hour and coming to my office.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to the ST Wealth Podcast. I'm Sim Gakhar, and I hope you found today's episode packed with insights to help you build and protect your legacy. Join me next time for more expert tips and stories from the world of business and wealth. See you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sim. Appreciate it.